Uh, Good morning. I need to run around for 1 second. I shall be right back.
Okay, thanks. Chairman Walker just asked for 1 minute, so we'll be starting shortly.
Yay. Good morning, all. I see there isn't a 2-hour delay with our committee meetings, so although we may be at different destinations as I am, because it just throw off the Monday morning. At any rate, are we prepared to proceed?
I am texting a few board members since you're the only one on the call. I know they should be joining shortly.
Okay.
If you give it 1 minute.
No, it's okay. That's fine. That's why I had to do a little something too. So.
Chief Avila, just checking to see if the schedule is still the same for our principal budget meetings.
They are. We have kept them the same.
Great.
So in that case, Chairman Walker, we are gonna, with your permission, we're gonna move the agenda on a little bit and start with Chief Avila's, correct? So she can go attend the principal's meeting. What I'll do, let me screen share the agenda. So we have a contract amendment with Education Resource Strategies, which I will move now to 1.03. And we'll start with the Scaling Equity Innovation Grants. And those contracts, unbounded with our both under Chief Avila's, or the schools, but under Chief Avila. And then we'll do the ERS. And actually, I just realized Chief Penn isn't on the call yet.
He might be at the getting ready for the school budget meetings because he's attending those as well.
Okay. And we have Ms. Oliver joining us. So, Mr. Walker, if you'd like to begin to make sure that we, as you know, the viewing audience also. Oh, you're on mute. I just.
Thank you. Good morning again. This is Tyrone Walker. I am a board member of the Harvard Board of Education and chair of the Finance and Audit Committee. And I want to welcome you to the December Finance and Audit Committee meeting. We appreciate your attendance and those who are listening in. And I'd like to start the meeting with a little round of introduction so we can understand both the speakers and the topics. So I may want to hand it around. Chief Avila, maybe you introduce yourself, and then we'll hand it off to some of our other members.
Good morning. I'm Yvette Avila, the Chief of Schools.
Let's see here. I guess Superintendent Torres, I guess you're well known.
Good morning, everyone. Superintendent Torres Rodriguez. And I'll tag Board Member Oliver.
Good morning, Kim Oliver, second vice chair and member of this committee. And I will tag Kristen.
Hi, everybody. I'm Kristen Ferris. I'm with ERS here for the agenda item where we come up. I'll just be in the background till then.
Good morning and welcome. And with that, Christina, I think it's appropriate for me to yield the floor to Chief Avila, if she's the person that's introducing the SEIG contracts.
Yes, just wanted to give a brief reminder to the board and the viewing audience that we did present this back in July at the Committee of the Whole. The idea, these are ESSER funded grants, and I'll let Chief Avila go up. And we did vet both of these contracts for SMSA and Great Path Academy through the Teaching and Learning Committee on November 30th. So Chief Avila.
Good morning, everyone, again, and just wanted to review a little bit about SEIG first and then go right into the grants. So the SEIG grants are focused on innovation and equity and really helping supporting principal feedback and school feedback and stakeholder feedback to really support additional resources for the schools that have the highest needs, as well as really making sure that there's agency for resource use and just piloting and learning new ways so that we can address urgent staff and student needs. And so with that, we have two different grant pieces of the grant, one for SMSA focused on school improvement and thinking about how they can best utilize resources to improve their innovation as well as support for students. And they are really presenting, I'm sorry, Christina, could you scroll up a little bit?
Oh, up.
No, the other way
Oh,
down.
yeah,
Sorry. And they're emphasizing wanting to support chronic absenteeism and really wanting to support engagement overall. And the resource that they are looking to use the CT Forum and their youth task talk programs, where the grant will cover basic events and small and large group facilitation surrounding topics such as peer pressure, racism, LGBTQ, stress and violence, body image, and many other topics. There are approximately 7 to 9 events that the students will be engaged in and would allow students to have the opportunity to discuss these particular topics in depth and really have opportunities to speak with one another as well as the staff in the building. And it will also involve parent involvement as well. And so they are proposing that 7 to 9 events will cost about $140,000. Christina, do you want me to just go through all of them or do I just want to stop for questions?
Yeah,
Mr. Walker?
yeah. I prefer, Chief Apple, let's stop after each one.
Okay,
And I think you've gotten to the reason, because I think they each have their own merits. So I think you completed at least the overview for the SMSA CT form.
I did.
Okay, thank you. Now, open the floor for questions or comments. Board Member Oliver, you any questions? Okay, so Chief Avila, I guess tuned into the Teaching and Learning Committee. Thank you, Christina. I actually took that action too from the last meeting. And the school level staff seemed very excited about this. I like CT Forum too, CT Youth Forum. I like the idea. The concern that I have is its ability to really move the absenteeism needle, because the number of events are small. The high leverage events, they are high impact events, but the number of events are small over a 2-year period of time. So I guess maybe it's a question or a comment or action. Is there a way to have the principal and their staff really track student engagement around this in terms of numbers, attendances of the events, and how students feel about it? Is there a way we can get some of that feedback maybe after year one to see how it's going and if it's really achieving what they want it to achieve?
Yes, there is. There will be an opportunity to get feedback as well from the students as well as the staff.
Okay, because I mean, financially, I don't think there's an issue financially, because the money is there. It does hit what the target is for what the equity improvement grant is supposed to do. So the only action I would say we can record an action from this is to have that student feedback from this and from the principals, maybe after the end of year one. So they're going to run this year from December until June of this year, June of 23. Let's see what the results look like, and maybe let's just have them come back to teaching and learning and up through the committee to say how is it going, the impact, what they want it to be. And we can look at it then to assess the need for some tweaking or correction. That'd be my action for this. And now I'm gonna ask Christina, do we need to vote each one of these individually, or do we vote them as a package? How best to proceed with that piece of it?
You could do this because they're both from the same grant. You could do as a package, so we can go into Great Path and then
do the
the
overall.
committee can agree to move it forward.
Okay, so then Chief Alba, let me move you forward then to the Great Path Academy. Ready CT.
So Great Path Academy would like to focus on Ready CT, which is a partnership that already exists in our comprehensive high schools. And they really want to support business and industry and deepen their expertise with internships and supporting and lifting the work that is aligned to career-connected learning opportunities at GPA, Great Path Academy. They want to elevate that type of engagement with students so that there's a high growth demand. There is a high growth demand in industries in the greater Hartford area, and this will really support early college, middle, and high school experience with our students. It will be an opportunity to have some dual enrollment in college classes as well. And they really want to increase the additional opportunities and development, the workforce, and prepare our students for college and career opportunities that go beyond what the scope of what they're doing at the moment right now. This will provide an individual that will be actually a coordinator on site to facilitate that continuum and have relationships with the students to facilitate their experiences at Manchester Community College, which is on the same campus. And it will provide a high level of contracted experiences that would include personnel, career assessment tools, technology support, materials and supplies, and transportation for students related to career readiness experiences.
Thank you, Chief Avila, for that overview. Are there questions or comments on this program?
I have a question.
Board Member Oliver?
Thank you. Thank you, Chief Avila. So this is a new program, is that correct?
It's new to Great Paths Academy. It's not new to our district. Our partnership with Ready CT is not new.
Oh yeah, no, I'm aware of
okay.
that, sorry. So because usually we have a pathway program that's usually industry-based. This one is more college acceleration, right?
Yes.
So that's why I just wanted to confirm. So this is new, but I'm assuming by reading this, leveraging some of the similar things that we had already hoped to do in terms of work-based learning, exposure to actual college. And I'm aware that superintendent had mentioned, because it might have been a couple of years ago now, who knows? And it might have also been you, Chief Avila, in terms of the great opportunities that we have at this campus, not always able to maximize those opportunities for various reasons. And so I think that my take of this is that this will assist us with doing that and really being able to take advantage of the fact that this school is right on the MCC campus. So
Ms. Oliver, additional to Dr. Torres Rodriguez saying it, at the time, the principal, Ms. Fitzgerald, that came to the board meeting, she actually this was her vision for the school as well, to really increase those opportunities, having the opportunity being on that campus. And so she had leveraged that. And so she's been working on that since that time. And she's really excited about, bringing this opportunity to its fruition so that she can truly implement the vision that she has for Great Paths Academy.
that's great. That's really great. Thank you. No more questions.
Can I just add one more thing? And that is that, this will also allow us an opportunity to really have an integrity to the middle college model as well, which I'm not saying that it hasn't been implemented well there. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that there is opportunity for expansion and improvement. And so we're looking forward to also learning from this, this partnership, specific partnership at GPA, because we know that we want to, as we think about reimagining the district, right, there could be some learnings for us there.
Thank you. Both the comments are great. Again, from looking at the presentation, I too am very excited about this relationship. This seems to have the most opportunity to bear fruit. The one action based on the discussion is in this build out, there seemed to be a desire to assure that Hartford students really partake in this program. And so again, I throw an action out there that, again, at the end of this calendar year, that we get some feedback from Principal Fitzgerald as to how it's going. I'm convinced that students will gravitate to this program. I just would like to make sure that we get enough Hartford students to gravitate towards the program. And if it's looking a little light, that maybe we revisit it between, the end of this year and beginning of next year to really kind of juice up the number of Hartford students participating in this program. I think this is a very valuable program for Hartford students to actually gravitate towards. Can that be an action?
I have that noted.
Okay. That's my only comment. I think the program as it is presented is a solid program to fund. So if there aren't further comments, we prepared to lift this up then as a proposal to take both, in this case, both SEIG programs, the CT Forum and then the CT Ready, to the full board for funding. I think Board Member Oliver, I guess I'm looking for your approval to elevate both of these to that full board.
And just so you know, Ms. Escribano, Board Member Escribano.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I did, Jahara, I apologize. You did pop on there, and please. Are you okay as well with elevating both of these SEIG grants?
I am comfortable.
Okay. Great. Then with that, Unbound is the next. Is this Chief Avila again going to be presenting this?
Yes, correct. And again, we also vetted this one through the Teaching and Learning Committee, but I will let Chief Avila speak on it.
Unbound Ed is a national organization that really supports high quality instruction and equity focused professional learning based on standards, state standards, as well as an instructional framework. The school leaders actually had professional learning with Unbound Ed back in August to really support their capacity in implementing grade level as well as high quality instruction in their schools. That excitement existed, and two of our schools want to continue the professional learning opportunities for their teachers and offer this, and that is Dr. Crawford as well as I believe it's McDonough. Oh, I'm sorry, Weaver High School, which is Principal Webley. I do know that, and in addition, they have additional seats, and this will also benefit without any extra cost, Milner School. And so Mr. Principal Watson and his team will also be joining this opportunity as well. They have extra slots, and so that has been offered to that particular school. So 3 of our schools, two middle schools and 1 high school that actually feed into Weaver. So this is done intentionally to support that staff in developing their capacity to deliver high quality instruction that is based with Connecticut standards. And so this is an opportunity that they will have a 2 full day professional learning opportunity that will make sure that all of the teachers in the building have this opportunity during this 2 day of professional learning.
Thank you, Chief Avila, excuse me, sorry. Are there questions from board members?
I don't have any.
Okay. All right. I have I guess a comment. I will say, listening to the presentation of teaching and learning, the goals of what's trying to be achieved here is being described with high standards and building scaffolding to bring students up so they can meet the high standards. I like that idea. I have some questions about whether this program is the right approach to give the teachers the skills they need to do modifications, accommodations, and build that scaffolding so that the students can achieve these achieve the requirements of the coursework. So I guess my question is, who's this target audience? Is it the leaders of the school, the teachers? Are we convinced that teachers don't have this training already and need to have this training?
So to answer your question, who's it targeted for? The school leaders have already participated in targeted professional learning for school leaders. This organization does do professional development for leaders as well as for teachers and instruction, people who deliver instruction as well. And so this particular professional learning is geared to teachers, and it is to support and elevate and strengthen their practices to deliver high quality instruction focused on the standards. And yes, I do believe that our teachers will benefit greatly from this opportunity. And I do feel that they need this to enhance their instruction.
Okay, then the action from me then is if we move forward this training, Chief Avila, that's rigorously assess teacher attitude or let's survey teachers essentially after this training, and let's hit teachers up again, survey them at the end of a semester to see the value of this training and the work that they did. I really want to hear teachers give some feedback on this, because either this works or we want to try something else. I totally think the issue that you're trying to get at is a good issue. And I just want to make sure when we do this, that we track it to see that it has some success. If it's not totally successful, that we try some additional activities, because I do think we need to get at this issue of how teachers can help students build a pathway to get up to efficiency and to achieve the academic success that they need to achieve. So can we track teacher surveying and attitudes at the end of the semester to see how it worked?
Yes.
Okay. So Kristen, let's have that as an action. And yeah, well,
And I also, when you're done, can I also have
yes,
a
no,
comment?
no, I'm gonna yield the floor to you, Superintendent.
Thanks.
Yes.
Christina, if you can also add to that, that we will report, as we normally do, also in the teaching and learning committee, all the other aspects of, efficacy, right? We know that we're going to survey, as Mr. Walker is talking about, teachers, how they felt as to this impacting their practice, but we know that there are other elements. For example, when we go on our instructional walks, and we look at those look fors as to, pedagogy and instruction being aligned to the standards. And then we'll also filter that through where the teachers are in their professional development continuum. We know that, right, we've hired, I forgot how many, over 400 teachers this year. And so, right, that could also, Mr. Walker, be a filter, right, when we look at responses and the data as well, right, depending on how long someone has been teaching, they might respond differently. So we'll look at the data from different angles, is what I'm saying.
Thank you, Superintendent. I would appreciate that. I think, the younger teachers and newer teachers, I could potentially see and get more out of this. So yeah, it'd be good to see the attitudes between maybe the younger teachers and then the veteran teachers. That would be excellent to get. So I'm going to ask board members, I guess Oliver and Escobar, if they're comfortable to elevating this to that full board for consideration for funding. Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So I will also approve. I've registered the question, but we're going to track that and we're going to see. So let's elevate this and we'll move on to 1.03.
Chief Avila, thank you for joining. I know you have to jump to the other meeting.
Oh, yeah. Thank you, Chief Avila, for your attendance.
Now, this is a contract amendment that does actually require a vote approval here at the committee level. It is a contract amendment in the amount of $12,000 per board agreement. Previously, if the amendment is under the 50,000 threshold, it can be approved at the committee level. So Tyrone, this is Mr. Walker, this is actually the first time a committee is seeing it, so we can go through. And Superintendent Torres Rodriguez will take this on, as well as we have Ms. Kristen Ferris on the call for questions.
Thanks, Christina. So this is actually some continuation of work. And just to give you some context, we've been working with ERS and their scope is over this month. And specifically, we were focused on the ROI, right? The return on investment, and identifying a process to look at our current resources and seeing how they were going to inform our spending and resource use, not just in the immediate, but also right toward our financial sustainability. They also supported us with targeted design for ESSER, ARP ESSER spending areas. This was a lot of work done with Chief Penn and his team, and then supporting us with some of the tools, materials that we're going to be using as we launch our engagement process around re-envisioning education in Hartford Public Schools. And given that the bulk of the work that's coming up in the next, through, I would say maybe April, May, is around deep engagement with our community. ERS is sort of going to kind of, go on the back burner a little bit until we get more clarity as to the trends and the feedback that we have heard from all of our stakeholders, to then help us inform not only financial sustainability resource allocation, but also, the impact of Chef on any redesign that we do. So this is why it's a much, much smaller scope, $12,000, which will focus on a few things. One is when we onboard the deputy superintendent, which will work closely with the team on any innovation and redesign work. So they'll support with transitioning around their strategic plan and the ESSER strategy and the monitoring work that we're doing. ERS, with this smaller scope of work, will also continue to work with us on some decision-making, problem solving around strategic plan relative to ESSER. And that work will also continue to entail Chief Penn and his team. And then also, we have been working with ERS specifically around the Chef implications. And we know that, as we talk about redesign, we also have to consider the ecosystem of school choice. And so ERS and our leadership team will continue to work to see if there are any threats that we should be thinking about or solving for relative to financial sustainability. Again, it's a much smaller scope of work until we determine in the future the support that we're going to need relative to financial sustainability after we do the engagement with our community. I'll pause there in case Kristen Ferris at ERS has anything to add, or she'll be available for questions.
Nothing to add, but happy to answer questions. Thank you, Dr. Torres Rodriguez.
Thank you, Superintendent. I appreciate what you're saying, and I'm inclined to be supportive. I'm just wanting to understand a tiny bit here. So one is this $12,000. What percentage of this is of the overall contracted effort? How long has the relationship been? How much have we spent so far on this effort? Roughly speaking.
Do you want me to speak to that, Dr.?
Sure, and Chief Penn can also, I see Chief Penn here as well. Yes, I just want to also highlight that there's a strand of this work around the $12,000 that is new work relative to transitioning of a deputy superintendent and making sure that as he, assumes oversight of any innovation work, that ERS will kind of support him with that as it relates to ESSER. But yes, Kristen or Chief Penn.
So I would just, in terms of spending, the last scope of work, which ends this month and began last April, totaled to about $375,000, and this is $12,000. So this is a much smaller, proportional scope, and this will go over. This covers the months of January, February, March, and April. So, you can see even though the time period is not too dissimilar from the previous time period, that just the scope of support over that time period is much smaller.
Okay, thank you. That was very helpful, Kristen. Chief Penn or the superintendent, I think you pointed out, like, what's the deliverables and who's the chief recipient of this? Is it Chief Penn or is it you, superintendent, in terms of who's the recipient of their deliverables?
I think it's a matter of the team. So for example, as it relates to financial sustainability and identifying those threats, it's certainly going to continue to be Chief Penn. As it relates to transitioning this, the deputy superintendent, that is really going to need to understand, one, the strategic plan, which, that's part of our work internally, but it's the financial sustainability implication and strategy of that, Mr. Board Member Walker. The deputy superintendent will benefit from that. The piece that we're all collectively inclusive, I guess, of the board that we will all benefit from is, every time that we are going to go out and engage our stakeholders, we are specifically going to bring back, if you will, all that we have heard, and there's going to be synthesizing of that information, those trends and those patterns, and there's going to ultimately be a financial implication to us wanting to say we're going to try to innovate and expand the supports for students that happen outside of the school walls, for example, right? We just hopefully will approve, you all will approve that Ready CT, because we want students to have more opportunities to have internships and job shadows. Suppose that the feedback that we hear says that is one thing that we have to expand on immediately, right? There is a financial sustainability implication. And what we want to do is have ERS be at the ready and having all of those themes that we're hearing and begin to, kind of model things out for us when it's time for them to kind of re-engage with us again. And that, I hope I explained that correctly.
Yeah, thank you. It explains it. And yes, I'm satisfied that, because your actual work, you're telling me you need $12,000 to do, the analysis and synthesis of both innovation and what you're hearing, inducting this deputy superintendent and make sure they're successful. And so all I would add is, I don't know if there's some point at which this type of activity, if we develop the capacity to do some of this in-house, Kristen, I totally appreciate you being a partner, because I totally understand superintendent has a beautiful idea that she expresses, but then wants to know, how much is this going to cost? And can we do it? So answering those questions makes a lot of sense, right? And I'm assuming you're answering those kind of questions. So I'm comfortable. So I guess, Christina, what's the, is there actual wording I'm needing to use here as a proposal? And then my two fellow board members on the committee needs to vote yay or nay on the proposal. So is the reading right on this?
Actually, while we entertain any questions, I will put that in there. Thank you for catching that.
Okay.
And then I'll screenshot.
Okay. I've got my education on this a bit. Are there questions from my other board members who are on the call?
Board Member Walker, I failed to mention that this is the funding source is Travelers. This is not ESSER ARP funded, which is I wouldn't say the majority of the work that ERS has done, because Travelers has actually been a big a funder of our strategic work with ERS, but this is specifically funded by Travelers. So
we feel better about that too. We thank Traveler for their partnership and their belief in the district.
Yes.
Again, if there aren't other questions, there might be a question. Board Member Oliver?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, everyone. And I understand what is being proposed and feel pretty positive about it. I just want to make sure that, and I might have missed this part, so I apologize. But when we talked about the looking ahead, and I keep looking away because I have another monitor, so my apologies. And it talks about, there's a section that does say, looking ahead, right? So is the thinking after this March timeframe that you come back to the board or the different, okay, I see the superintendent nodding her head.
Yes, we just don't know what it'll look like, what it'll call for. I'm thinking back, and board member Ms. Oliver, you might remember when we did the DME, and then after all of that work, we had several schools that were directly working with ERS on their specific redesign, right? Because it was a co-created model with a community. And so, yes.
Okay. And I think one of the things my time has somewhat been defined by ERS being here. I joined around the same time superintendent did. And I think that we've gained some really valuable information and work from ERS. And I know as we're continuing on some of these strategic elements, I'm also thinking about superintendent, the support that you also may need from other folks as well, and how that plays into it. But I completely appreciate being truly open to the engagement process and saying we're not going to from today decide what that design is because we don't know yet. So I really appreciate that. And thank you for clarifying that for me. That's the only question I have. Thanks.
Can I also, you just maybe think about something else? Is it, board member Walker, can I?
I'm sorry. Yes, superintendent.
I do envision, as Ms. Oliver just talked about, additional partners at some point, specifically when we think about possibly reimagining the teacher role. And right, so that we can serve not just our students, but serve our educators and our staff better. And so that will require, there is a financial implication to that, but it will certainly require other partners, other experts that have done this work around reimagining the experience for our educators. And so perhaps, as part of, while we have the engagement track going, there is going to be this other track that I'm going to be focused on with other partners that will help inform the potential design. So I don't know if it's maybe at a teaching and learning committee so that I can give an update as to not just the engagement, but all the other pieces that are going to inform this work. Ms. Oliver, that is so process related. It's not really related to this committee, but it just made me think about where does that learning live while we're learning in the moment.
That's really helpful. Thank you, Chair Walker, for giving me some more time. That's really helpful to understand, because I would assume you're also doing review. I know evidence-based practices is something that we do here as a best practice in Hartford, and also just the work of, you said there are others who are doing it, comparing that up against us, learning from them, and I know that's an undertaking in of itself, and obviously we want the best classrooms that we can have. So I appreciate that, and I look forward to learning more. To your point, we might not start in this committee, but really look forward to learning more.
Thank you, Zed. Good discussion, and I would offer that superintendent at some point, if we go into that the next year, there's probably an opportunity to do some pause for reflection to educate and bring new board members up to speed, because this sounds like a very long-term relationship, and to understand the strategic value is more than what we're going to cover here today. But that's just in action for the future. If there aren't any further questions, I do want to bring the motion up so we can actually do just this little bit of business. So if if there aren't further questions, let me bring this motion to the floor. The motion is that the Hartford Finance Committee authorize the superintendent to execute a contract amendment with Education Resource Strategies, Inc., I guess, for the term delineated in the contract extending to March 31st, 2023 at an amount not to exceed $12,000.
So moved.
There's second. Thank you. It's been properly moved and seconded. Christina, hopefully you captured that movement second. Oliver and Escofano. So there is, again, any further discussion. Let's signify approving with an hand sign or an A. Approve.
Aye.
Aye.
Well, in this case, I'm going to call it unanimous as everyone has voiced their opinion here. So thank you for bringing this up. Superintendent and Chief Penn, you're authorized to proceed forth. And Kristen, continued appreciation for their relationship that you're and the value that you're offering to superintendent and to the district. Do we have time, or do we? Oh yes, Kristen, if you absolutely are free to walk around the cabin and then leave the meeting if that's what's needed. Now, what's left here is reporting. I don't know, Chief Penn, is there something that you want to highlight there here, or is this just for our reading and review?
Mr. Chairman, I would say I just want the board to be paying close attention to what's being reported this month, right? We've taken a pretty sharp decline in our magnet school operating grant as a result of the decline in enrollment. What we've done is, because we had to submit to the state a budget that reflects the decline, we've transferred the funding source for a large number of personnel to the general fund out of the magnet school operating grant. And in turn, that's now creating a negative variance, a deficit in the general fund totaling around 8.8 million. And I guess late breaking news, we got the bills in from CREC late last week. CREC is in the process of doing a multi-year, very steep increase in their tuition costs. And the current projection we have on tuition is coming in $5 million higher than what we anticipated now. So we're under some stress. I'm not going to lie, in the general fund right now. Now, the numbers we're quoting here reflect our very, very first pass at vacancies and those kind of things. And what I would also tell you is there's some conservatism here in the sense that we always try to plan for every non-personnel line being fully expended by the end of the year. And we know that's not the case. We don't see that happen. But there are some concerns about how do we start to mitigate this now with 6.5 months left of the fiscal year to make sure that we're not ending in a deficit by the end of this year. What I would also tell you is that's not a one and done, meaning that if there's persistence in the magnet school enrollment, which we think there is, and it's what we're factoring into our budgetary planning for 23-24 right now, we're going to have to continue to think about how do we achieve what we want to with significantly less funding than what we've been provided for in the past. This also has implications for our legislative strategy for the upcoming session. If you recall, there was a piece of legislation, it was called House Bill 5283, that dealt with a lot of transferring the responsibility for magnet school tuition away from the local districts and directly to the state. In other words, increasing the magnet school operating grant such that that local burden no longer existed. Obviously, there's significant implications to Hartford in a positive way if we can get revised legislation back on the agenda and actually get it out to the House for a vote. Yeah, so there's a lot of moving parts to this that I think is going to take some coordination between the superintendent, myself, the board, and our legislative leaders to make sure that we get the right level of attention paid on this. Because again, it's like we'll work hard to mitigate this year, but we don't want to be in a position of having to mitigate that big a deficit on an ongoing basis going forward. The one piece of positive that came out, and I highlighted it here in the memo as well, was the fact that you've all heard about the massive rate increase by Eversource that's kicking in on January 1st. We are insulated from that. And the reason is we piggyback with the city off their negotiation of electric rates, which were good for through December 1st of 2024 at 7 cents per kilowatt hour, which is ridiculously below where the current market is and where the market's going to be in about 2 weeks here. So I'm not concerned at all in terms of where our utilities are budgeted this year as a result of that increase. So let me pause there and see if we have questions before we turn to what we're talking about with the ESSER funding.
Okay, thank you, Chief Penn. I do not know if it's a conflict of interest to propose allowing Hartford residents to piggyback on that negotiated rake that
No,
district.
unfortunately, no. We can't. Yeah, me too. But no, we can't. Yeah.
So I'll open it to questions. And maybe Chief Penn, I guess I may start with maybe a question or comment. I clearly understand the correct tuition increase. I didn't understand quite all the implications of the magnet funding, other than if you're telling me that we were getting some kind of, in essence, price support or some kind of, obligation support, and that's kind of getting pulled back. And so we're feeling more the full brunt of the cost of magnet school tuition. Is that kind of what you're?
That's exactly right. We received
Okay.
$13,150 through the magnet school operating grant for every suburban student that attends the Hartford operated magnet schools.
Right.
Year over year, that population declined by 286 students.
Sure.
And that's the impact that we're seeing.
So, all right, and I totally understand that. And what I would say, because we brought up, or at least Superintendent, you brought up about the Chef versus O'Neill and its impact. And all I would say is maybe an action to maybe a committee of the whole of some type of meeting. I feel like we need to have a meeting by January, because the legislative cycle starts then. So we need to kind of have an idea of what we're thinking and what our approach is going to be. So that's the only action I can say out of this. I think it needs to move beyond our committee to get the whole board aware, so that we can begin to move with some, uniformed kind of voice in action. Now, that being said, other comments, Board Member Oliver?
Hi, thank you. So I have staying on the magnet operating grant for a moment, and you mentioned Chef and the implications of Chef. I just am testing my own understanding of what the settlement agreement is, where I believe there's an incentive for suburban schools to participate, but it doesn't go the other way, right? It's not as if we're going to get increased dollars here at Hartford as part of that settlement. Is that accurate? I mean, I'm probably oversimplifying, but basically what I'm saying is more dollars are going to be going to some school districts per student, but we're not one of them.
When we did the internal modeling, actually working with ERS around some of this work, there is definitely more downside risk than upside risk to us.
Okay.
That if you looked over sort of in, boss, I think it was a 5 or 6 year horizon, that we could potentially lose upwards of 2,000 kids. That was kind of our worst case scenario, because we were worried about suburban districts having a higher incentive to have Hartford students go attend their schools, right?
Right.
There was a change in what those districts would receive on a per student basis going forward. And so, yeah, I mean, there is definite risk in the way the chef is proposed. And Dr. Torres Rodriguez, do we want to make mention of the meeting that's actually happening tonight that we're going to?
The board is aware of that meeting. I think the other thing that I would add to your response, Chief Penn, is that in addition to the incentives that Board Member Oliver referenced, right, it's all the other costs as well, right? If we're talking about students that need special education supports, right? That's an added layer
That's right.
that we're responsible for. And those are fees that we don't control. These have been the perennial conversations in MARB, for example, as to, how can we have some predictability in the funding, in the cost, but it's really hard for us to have predictability, especially as it relates to special education. So yes, it is what you're saying, added incentives, which, right, that might mean more students being served by our suburban neighbors. However, it's not just the tuition and the incentive, it's all the other costs.
So I appreciate that. Thank you. And know that my brain always want to go to holistic, but what I'm really trying to get to is the cost per student, because the cost per student is also, in essence, comparatively, we're getting less than what a suburban, because I know, to your point about SPED, your point about in the total, because obviously the lower the number in terms of enrollment, the worse for us because of economies of scale and so many other reasons, in addition to now per student costs around, like you said, SPED and other things that happen, right? But I also feel as if what I'm hearing you say is, hey, we got this decrease in this grant. And on top of that, the additional money that the state has is going out to suburban schools for these incentives. I mean, that's what I'm trying to get clarity on, because I'm just trying to, as you know, we're going to this meeting tonight, as we are thinking about advocating, I want to be able to say, guess what? Yeah, guess what? You just decreased the dollars you're giving to us through this grant. And we're also about to get hit again, not just through a lower enrollment, but in fact, you're paying more to these suburban districts per kid when you add that incentive.
So I would be careful about how much I pin on the state versus change in circumstance, right?
Okay.
So when I look at it at a decline in enrollment in our magnet schools, that could be suburban parents and students deciding, you know what, I want to stay closer to home. We're hearing some of that,
fair.
right? So the per student funding stayed constant, but our enrollment declined. And I don't know that I would attribute that to something that the state did. The risk to us coming out of Chef is that they've said, we're going to increase what suburban districts receive for opening up choice seats in their districts. That's really where, and that's part of what the settlement reflects.
Okay. And I'm sorry, as a flat dollar, that incentive is more of a flat dollar, basically.
That incentive is a flat dollar as it stands right now. Although there are bonuses if you have a certain number of kids.
Okay.
If you have kids at a certain grade level, so there's like kickers in there that are raise the incentive. Yeah.
Okay. So I got you, and I appreciate that clarification. So overall, there's definitely, I'm going to say, a negative impact. I'm going to say that. But I appreciate you saying be cautious of the way you're saying it in terms of, and that was one of the reasons I wanted to ask, because I'm struggling with the fact that we had such a, it feels like significant decrease in these dollars amount. I mean, this is more than 10%. I mean, isn't it? I mean, am I correct in that? Like a decrease of 10%? Like usually, isn't it the operating grant usually about 50 the most?
Oh, it's definitely more than 10%. That operating grant, we were modeling for 56 million and it's coming in at about 49.
Yeah. So that's a huge decrease.
Yeah.
While I still have the floor, Chair Walker, another question. So for this committee, as a reminder, I represent Hartford Public Schools on CREC Council. I'm the Secretary Treasurer as part of CREC Council, again, representing our district. The increase, do we have a percentage increase that is from CREC? I know you said this just came in, so maybe you haven't had a chance to do that, and I appreciate it, but maybe
Yeah.
as a follow-up, I know that there's been some conversation, I'm just saying this publicly to everyone. There's been some conversation about those rates and conversations that CREC leadership has been having with the state for some time that I'm aware of.
Yeah.
Because there similarly needs to right the ship on that side of the house, but also just interested in terms of what our actuals ended up being in Hartford, just because obviously we have a good chunk.
Yeah.
And if you could get that information, I really would appreciate it.
I can give you order of magnitude.
Okay.
It's on the level of about 10%. If I recall correctly, the number jumped from 10%. I'll get you the exact numbers though.
Okay.
And the other caution is it's multi-year. It's not one and done. They've kind of, after we passed our budget, they announced that they were rolling out 3 years of consecutive cost increases.
In 3 years, but this 1 year, you're already looking at what you estimate to be 10% increase. Right?
Well, I think the increases were around 10% per year.
Okay.
This one increase is costing us on the order of magnitude of like 5 million.
All right. Superintendent and also Chief Penn, I know you stay close to Dr. Florio and his team on that side. Please let me know if it would be helpful to have us talk and bring in some other board members, because that is a little bit more than I was anticipating for you to say. So I appreciate that. I give the floor back to you, Chair.
Thank you, Board Member Oliver. The context makes a lot of sense since you're sitting on that board. Yeah, at this point, I'm looking at time now. If this is a report out, there's no action here. This is the opportunity to have some discussion, and so this was appropriate. If now the meeting tonight, just to refresh my memory, because we received several. Is the meeting tonight one that we can listen in on? If you know, I thought it was that kind of meeting. So I'm just asking here in this space before I have to go hunt through my emails. What's the meeting tonight in particular?
Tonight's meeting, the Harvard Connecticut State Department of Education, led by Robin Cecier, is going to give a presentation. And if you're asking about listening in through Zoom, you'd ask them if they were going to have that option.
Or is it in person?
It's in person. It's at Sport and Medical Sciences Academy. They had asked us to host, so we did put it in one of our schools so that parents were familiar with that, the area, and could attend, make it easier to attend. It starts at 5 p.m. tonight.
Yeah, can you just, I guess, forward me the invite again? So I might put some more effort. Given this conversation, may be good just to get, it's one thing if there's no changes and stuff, but it sounds like changes are happening now. So maybe to get the information firsthand, maybe good to hear it. So other than that, I'm wondering if it's appropriate to adjourn the meeting at this point. And
Mr. Chairman, if you can give me 5 more minutes just to cover a couple of things that you asked in the last Finance Committee meeting when I was not there.
Yes. I didn't know if you were going to return to that. I know you had
Ms. Coleman.
Executive Director Coleman, I think. And so I was going to let that kind of, but okay.
So very briefly, just respecting time and knowing that I have budget meetings all day today.
Right.
There is a couple of things I wanted to share with you. On the SEIG grants, we are very, very close to having all the budgets adopted for those at the individual school level. There are 4 remaining. So we're very close to doing that. I will be working on my team on an enhanced level of reporting that goes along with that. Now that we're actually starting to see the schools spend that money. So it'll be a subset of the reporting that I already do for you along the of ESSER. And the one thing I wanted to share with you, I know you asked questions between, explain the difference between an adopted budget and an adjusted budget. And I wanted to kind of clarify that.
Mhm.
And I think it's important to look at that in terms of the different types of budget source that we have, the general fund versus the special funds. Christina, would you mind pulling up my report one more time, please? Because it works better with a visual. Okay. And if we could scroll down one more, if you don't mind.
Uh,
Okay.
and Christine, can you hit just a zoom a little bit on that thing? Yeah, just pop it. Yeah, a couple more. Thank you.
Yeah, Christine, if you can come down to the bottom of that page, if you wouldn't mind. So this is our general fund budget, right? This one pretty much doesn't change between adopted and adjusted because we only have a certain amount of dollars in our general fund, and that doesn't change. We'll move money back and forth between categories if we see the need to do that. And if it exceeds the right threshold, we'll come to you for an approval first. But this numbers, they tend to stay constant. But let's go take a look at the special funds because I think it becomes a little more clear what's happening there. So as we get notices, Christina, why don't you go to the very last page? That's probably going to be where it's going to be the most obvious. One more, if you could, please. Okay. So now here you'll see a very clear distinction between what's in adopted versus what it's in adjusted, right? There's almost a $40 million difference. As we become aware of grants during the year, we will start adjusting budgeted numbers based on the actual amount of the grant that we receive versus what we had budgeted to set out the year. Now, remember, we're setting up this budget in February. We don't find out about some of the grant amounts until September, October, November, and we then need to make adjustments for this. But the biggest piece of this that's not in the adopted budget is the ESSER funding. Now, you remember, we were being very deliberate about not having ESSER in our core budget number because we didn't want to have huge swings up and down that we were trying to report on. But now that we've started to approve the ESSER funding for this year, in particular, the millions of dollars related to SEIG, you'll now see that all the dollars that have moved up are almost exclusively in the COVID-related grants. As a matter of fact, Christine, I'm sorry, if you can roll back up 2 pages. Yeah, go to the top of that, you'll see it. So there you see the $22 million, it kind of jumps off the page there, and the $7 million, another for a little ways down. That's all our big ESSER grants, right? So now that we're loading in the budgets related to that, you're starting to see the adjusted budget start to reflect all of that funding. So that's basically the difference I wanted to relay to you between what's the difference between the adopted budget versus the adjusted budget.
Yeah, thank you very much. This is good. And again, probably Chief Penn, for my own edification, just a little bit of just one-on-one time for me just to kind of get the lay of the land. But to answer this question, I get what you're saying, because I'm thinking about nonprofit world where a lot of times timing of grants and stuff is hard to predict. And so, yeah, there's a timing thing. And then, yeah, so that makes totally good sense that funding will change from the time. Yeah. All right. Thank you very much for that.
Mr. Chairman, I have nothing else for you.
Okay. And I appreciate you for completing that task. So if all minds are clear, I'm going to make a motion that we adjourn the meeting for December's Finance Audit Committee. And thank you for those who are listening in. And I would say have a good morning.